Australian, like
What up, virtual people? Welcome to episode 93 of VCR Redux, where we take your favorite franchises out of the analog era and bring them back to 2023. I'm your host, pop culture punk Chris Stiles, joined as always by my co-host with the most, film professor Ian Klink.
How you doing, everybody?
And we have two special guests on the show tonight. First up, the third leg of our VCR tripod himself. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. Mac Daddy Mickey Torres is back on the show.
What's Mickey up, Bronson.
Hey.
And rounding out this righteous crew from the band Crash Romeo, whose newest music video, Your Name Here, is available on YouTube now. Steve Anderson is back on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me back.
Thank you for coming back.
Yes,
we are
anytime.
here today, folks, to dial up some internet, conquer the Cyber Christ, and take your VCRs into a virtual world. That's right. This world needs Lawnmower Man 3 Byte Club, and we're here to give it to you. But before we can blow our jobes on a sequel, we need to talk about how Lawnmower Man came into our lives and what we love about it. And of course, that includes everyone watching the live chat as well. Was it Love at First Laserdisc, Vital VHS? Hit us up in the chat and let us know how Lawnmower Man came into your lives. So, Steve,
please do.
Do you remember that fateful day when
Yes.
you first watched The Lawnmower Man?
For the first time on VCR Redux, I think I do.
Oh,
I
yes.
do, yeah.
Success.
So, my mom was a huge horror fan, especially like Stephen King, anything Stephen King-ish when it came out. But my dad wouldn't watch anything horror related ever. So at a way too young of an age, she would have me watch these things. So like The Shining and It when it came on TV, and Carrie, Christie, all of that. This fell into that because it was marketed, it's a Stephen King, adaptation initially. So I remember it was rental. We rented it or whatever, but whatever, 1992. So it would have been 11. So yeah, but like as soon as this came out on VHS or whatever, we rented it immediately.
Shout out to Gerald, who's a mother to so many.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. My mom, I think, I don't know, maybe both my mom and dad were both into Stephen King stuff. So that was big. They had the book, they had the movie, they had like a lot of his books, Needful Things sitting around, stuff like that. They were always reading like a new Stephen King book in the 90s. So I could definitely relate to that. Mickey, what about you? First time Lawnmower Man. Was this a double date? Was this a McDate?
No, I think I saw this on HBO. I caught this on HBO.
On HBO. And the impression it left? Good, bad, neutral?
Did I watch Lawnmower Man?
Okay. That's how Mickey
that's
feels
him.
about Lawnmower Man. Mickey is filling Ian's chair today. So, Ian, tell us about your experiences with Lawnmower Man.
Nobody wants to tell their experiences of Lawnmower Man.
That sounds like I feel like I'm a cop questioning you about something that happened to you now.
Right.
Like, tell us about your experiences with the Lawnmower Man.
We'll talk about this in a second. But I do remember Lawnmower because again, like Steve, it was marketed as Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man. All right. And I'm sure we all have a VHS tape. I don't know what the trailer was on, but I remember it being on some trailer. And I rented it at Slagle's Pharmacy in Wellman, Iowa, because
Was that next to the Come and Go pizza?
You guys are gonna upset her. Knock it off. I'm telling you.
Hey,
Come
shout
and
out to
Go.
Mama Klink. I love it.
Come and Go has some of the best breakfast pizza in Iowa. I will, hands down. I
don't even know what breakfast pizza is, but okay,
maybe
go ahead.
I'm
Go
just
ahead.
saying,
It's literally
we should-
all right.
I just want to take a moment here. We're
This
citing
is
the
more
mothers
important.
here, and I love it. I just want to shout out to the mothers. We'll make this the Lawn Mother Man. And that's it. I just wanted to say that one bad pun.
That
Continuing.
is the creepiest thing you've ever said. Anyway, but breakfast pizza is, because this is more important than Lawnmower Man. Instead of red sauce, you have cheese sauce, and you put cheese, bacon, Canadian bacon. It's breakfast pizza.
And it's an actual the slice too.
It's a slice of pizza. It's breakfast.
You
pizza.
get this at a gas
You
station.
you can get like
Okay.
like a breakfast pie, like a large pie, and
Yeah. Oh, it's the best.
But can you get the Lawnmower Man on Sega CD at that same location? That's what I want to know.
You probably could have gotten it at probably somewhere at a
wait. Did you rented this movie from the
like a truck stop?
Yeah. You rent this movie from the breakfast pizza?
No.
From a pharmacy. From a pharmacy.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Slagle's, right?
No, this was Slagle's Pharmacy in Walden, Iowa. It was
a pharmacy.
School, yeah, it was like old school pharmacy. Like it had a soda shop. They had the VHS rental section. You know, the back of the store is basically the 5 and dime. That old concept.
So it's kind of like our Woolworths.
Yeah. I mean, so it's downtown Walden, Iowa, and I rented it because it had the from Stephen King, and of course I watched Pet Sematary, all of the Stephen King movies, only to find out what we will talk about in a little bit, that this is not Stephen King, and we'll explain that. But yes, I do remember renting it, and you know what? As much as I want to say I don't like Lawnmower Man, as much as I want to say that, and I'll explain my reasons.
Go ahead, you could say
it. It's not a terrible movie. It's not. So we'll talk a little bit more about it. But that was my Lawnmower Man experience.
You know what? I kind of got to agree with you there. It's not a terrible movie. It's not. Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I definitely would not call it that.
Yeah, but again, I'll explain my reasons a little bit here.
As a Stephen King adaptation, though, it makes Kubrick's The Shining look like book accurate, because it's just so,
Well, okay, well, all right.
It's like sort of like the chicken and the egg, and we'll get into that in a sec too.
Okay, yeah. You tell your
I'll tell my story before that. I want to see what are the stories in the chat here. Let's see. Okay. Wow, the chat's already pretty active. I'm sorry. I'm trying to scroll to the top of it. I apologize here. I should have had this ready, but it's super, super active today. I'm looking for where I started. Okay. All right. I see Angie Saunders in there, Joanne Bullimore, Kyle Camper, Alex Bonafante. Yeah, someone else manage the chat for me, please. Speaking of, let's see. Kyle Camper says, I've never even heard of this movie before tonight. Well, thank you for being with us, MK.
Case closed.
For those of you that don't know, MK2 is the man in the background. Whenever we do a VCR Redux, he's the guy running the chat and running the stream, because we wouldn't have a fucking clue how to do any of that. He is our Cyber Christ, which, by the way, I just have to take a moment to shout out the weirdest line from the movie. When Jeff Fahey, the great Jeff Fahey, declares himself to be the Cyber Christ. And I just love it. I just think it's so fucking ridiculous. And Steve jokingly said, you need to call this episode The Passion of the Cyber Christ. And I actually pushed for it. I was like, it really needs to be that.
And on the seventh day, he rebooted.
And on the 8th day, he made gas station pizza that everyone that would be loved the world over. Let's see. There's a lot of. I see Dustin Nino from Retro Fiend Radio in there. Some What's Up, everyone. Not a lot of Lawnmower Man stories so far. I'm scrolling through trying to find some. I see Sean Gold of Gold's Code says, I know the producer of the new Lawnmower Man. I could have brought him on this show, except we got Ian instead. Again.
Wow. Okay.
What is the new Lawnmower Man?
They're as like anything else, they're just rebooting everything.
Really?
Well, I mean, obviously his Wi-Fi is way better and faster.
It would have to be.
He has Wi-Fi. How did they keep the connection going?
So Angie Saunders says it was VHS is always how she discovered the movie. Alex Bonafante says it's funny how everything Job tried to accomplish in the sequel, every social media mogul halfwit failed to do also. That is kind of interesting. In some ways these movies are ahead of their time, or at least the first one is. We
gotta talk about this.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
We will.
Let
me just finish. Yeah, let me just.
Oh,
you're real quick.
Yeah.
Gold's Coat says I first saw this movie on TV, but quickly changed the channel to something more entertaining. But the race down Devil's backbone, baby. Let's see.
Yes.
Okay, Dustin Nino. I'd also like to say, in general, Brett Leonard did a good job with this and Virtuosity. But as a gigantic Highlander nerd, I will never forgive him for Highlander: The Source. That went a little bit over my head when you got to Highlander: The Source. I was with you the whole time.
Never saw The
but
Source?
I'm not. Virtuosity is one of those like. It's just made
Don't
entirely
you
with the
dare.
spare parts from
Don't
other movies.
you
Oh, fuck
dare.
you. fuck you with your virtuosity loving, gas station pizza eating, fucking hoity-toity blazer, yo teach Lawnmower Man
I love
background ass.
virtuosity. If you didn't like virtuosity when you were a kid, you weren't having a childhood. That's all I have to say.
All right, Oscar Toronzo. This movie was amazing. It's about the soul, the spirit, the reality, the powers that be who tried to dumb you down for their own benefit, enlightenment, our limits as humans, and it was well made. Shout out to Oscar for seeing the finer points of this movie. And I do agree in that regard. It may not have been executed perfectly, but everything he says is true. It's all present in there. And this is a movie that the studio came and they fucking mucked with, and they mucked with, and they mucked with some more. Yeah. That's why the director's cut is widely available. We'll get into that as well. Dustin Eno agreeing, though. Well said, Oscar. Trying to see if there's any more. There's already some pitches and stuff. Okay, so the chat's, going a little wild today. My first time watching Lawnmower Man. This is a rarity. I don't actually remember the first time, but I'm pretty sure this was it. My parents had this fucking 90s Suburban. Steve, you might remember this. It had a TV and a VCR in it. It was dude, it was baller. They got this shit in like 1994, and it was like, holy fuck, this is insane. The TV was like, probably this big. But I just thought it was so cool. And we would always go on these road trips up to the fucking UP of like Wisconsin and Michigan, the Upper Peninsula. And my brother would often make me watch some movie that I little like 8, 9, 10-year-old me didn't have that much interest in. And Lawnmower Man was one of those. I was like, I don't really give a fuck. Like, why am I, all right, I guess I'll watch it because I'm in the car and there's nothing else. Like, it's like being on an airplane without a Discman. Like, you're definitely going to watch the movie, So I watched it and I didn't.
It's relatable today.
Yeah, exactly.
Ironically, yeah. Well, yeah. And
I picture 8-year-old you looking like you right now, and that is that 8-year-old who's like, "F this."
Where's my Discman?
But like, I mean, you showed like a fucking 8-year-old kid like The Deer Hunter. Like, other than like those few key scenes, like that movie is boring as fuck for an 8-year-old kid. For an 8-year-old, like, other than those fucking awesome Russian roulette scenes, like, the rest of the movie was boring as shit. I love it now.
Every 8-year-old loves a 4-hour wedding scene. Knock it off.
Thank you. Exactly my fucking point. I'm getting spin cycle now. I forgot we're talking about Lawnmower Man.
So you saw it in this Suburban.
So I saw it in this fucking Suburban on my way to Wisconsin, which I was already like, I don't even want to be going here. No offense, Wisconsin, but I wasn't going to like the cool parts. Like I was going to, in my mind, like the not cool parts.
I don't think they're offended.
Well, you never know.
Chris has now been banned from the great state of Wisconsin.
Yes, I've been canceled. No more fucking cheese curds for me. Which is a shame. I love them.
Oh,
anyway.
joy. Whatever will I do?
Fucking funny part, right? I have this memory, and I'm convinced someone time traveled because I'm going to rewatch these movies this week. Nothing holds up to the way I remember it, right? Like I remember watching the first one and not liking it, and then I remember really enjoying the second one of all things. When Steve and I watched these movies this week, and I even watched the director's cut of one after we had watched both of them.
You lied to me.
Man, Lawnmower Man 2 is nothing like the film I remember. It's Mandela effect, it's time travel, it's a paradox, it's whatever it is. But I never watched that fucking piece of shit until I had to watch it for this one. And the first movie I can respect, and it's got its merits and all this and that, the Stephen King things aside. But man, Lawnmower Man 2. Here's another interesting factor of this. Everywhere you see Lawnmower Man 2 now, it is called Beyond Cyberspace. And I do want to say one thing. I'm not throwing shade to Matt Frewer. Matt Frewer is one of the fucking greatest actors that has ever walked the earth. It's not his fault the movie's a mess. Or Patrick Bergen's or anyone else's, Austin O'Brien's. But man, just like, I feel like Lawnmower Man 2 is like a crash course on like everything to not do for a sequel. And like, just it's cast horribly. No disrespect to the cast, but just none of the pieces fit. The production design.
No disrespect to you, who actually acted in here, but I believe they picked the wrong actors.
They're all terrible.
Sometimes people are just unfairly miscast. It's like, what can you do? It's hard to explain when that.
I can't imagine people were lining up to be in this movie.
And I love Matt Frewer. He does good work. He's not bad in the movie. He's great,
but he's doing like a weird Jim Carrey thing through that whole movie.
And like, it's very putting a little too much Max Headroom in it.
Yeah, that I think that is I believe this, and I think Chris, you're kind of onto this to a point here. I think people remember Max Headroom as being like it literally being Lawnmower Man 2. Like I think they watch that movie and what comes in their head is Max Headroom. Because it could have been the same concept. You literally could have taken the Max Headroom character and made it,
yeah, like you kind of almost
2,
could have called
Max
it like
Headroom's
Lawnmower
War.
Man 2, Mad Max Headroom,
Yeah, Mad Max. That would have been a perfect. I agree with you. Well, so here's my issue with the Lawnmower Man. All right, as a Stephen King fan, and for those of you that don't know the story, what it was years ago, Stephen King sold sold the movie rights to a lot of the stories that are in Night Shift to a producer named Milton Sabrinsky. He's famous for doing Amicus, which did anthologies. He did, Dr. Terror's House of Blood, all those kind of things. Well, the actual story, Lawnmower Man, is literally the short story is a guy hires a lawnmower man. The guy comes to the house and goes out and he sees that this guy is with his mind is making the lawnmower actually go by itself, and he's eating the grass. And it's basically this demon god that this guy is trying to sacrifice. All right.
He's fully nude too, right?
Yeah. That's the story.
That's a more interesting movie than what we got.
Well, and that's the thing. It was in men's magazines like Cavalier when he sold it. Stephen King made like $200 off of it. That's what it was. Well, Sabrinsky, over the years, when he didn't make that, he started selling these short stories, like selling the rights to other people, because that was how the contract was. It was early in Stephen King's career. So this is why you have Cat's Eye. He sold it to Dino De Laurentiis, these like The Ledge. He sold other stories, but you also have Maximum Overdrive because Sabrinsky had the rights to the story Trucks. So forth. So
he's still my heart when you talk about Maximum Overdrive.
That's a
great movie.
That's a fucking
But here's what they had. New Line Cinema bought the rights from Sabrinsky for the Lawnmower Man. They had a script called Cyber God. Well, like they do sometimes, they said, well, let's merge. Hey, you got this script, but we can bank off of Stephen King's name by calling it The Lawnmower Man. Make this one character in it. Instead, I think Job in the original script he had nothing to do with lawnmower. That's the part that they added in, that he was an actual lawnmower man. So it's literally,
and it was like, again, it's just the weirdest title. It's like no one has ever referred to anyone in real life as the Lawnmower Man. It's like, oh, he's the lawn guy. He's the landscaper.
I've heard somebody refer to like a Lawnmower Man.
Stephen King. Here's what it used. It used to be called Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man. That was the whole point of calling it The Lawnmower Man, was to bank off Stephen King's name.
Right.
So Stephen King sees it, goes, this is a POS that has nothing to do with my story. Not that it's a bad movie, but this has nothing to do with my story. He sues New Line and wins in court, so they take his name off the movie. So I believe the producers, the stupidest thing that they did
Did you say defamation of character?
Pretty much. His whole thing was, you're going to sell this movie on it's a Stephen King movie, and it's not a Stephen King movie. So if you watch the director's cut, there's no mention of Stephen King.
Yeah.
They literally took his name off the title.
So my understanding is I'm sorry, real quick. He lost in court.
Yeah.
And then, I'm sorry, he won in court over this, and then New Line released it anyway, right, on home video with his name still on it, and then he sued a second time, and they wound up having to.
They did it
right,
and he sued again.
Yeah, and then there was something crazy.
Yeah, literally that is exactly what they did.
Did he like so?
And that was their whole point. They were like, look, doesn't matter, Again, the reason to call it Lawnmower Man was to get the Stephen King fans to go to the theater. So
Yeah.
But
they
Simon
also
says Die Hard 3 situation.
Did he
that's
also
literally what it
get?
was. Yeah.
Did he also collect money from them putting his name on there, like royalties or like,
Yeah.
At
Oh
first,
yeah.
At
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
because at first they were like, he was like, "Oh, you're gonna adapt that story? That's kind of weird. All right,
Yeah.
let's see what you do." Then he saw a cut of the movie, and he's like, "That's not my movie. That's not my book." And you can do that with Stephen King. I mean, you can add to it. You can do. I mean, but there was no.
He's pretty loose. He's pretty loose about that kind of thing. He doesn't seem to
Yeah.
care once it's in the hands of somebody else.
But after,
as long as it's done right.
as long as it's done
Yeah.
right, but after
Within
that,
reason, yeah. I mean, then I think it was around this time too that Sleepwalkers was going batshit. So he got his friend Mick Garris to kind of right the ship on that one. So he was maybe it was because of the Lawnmower Man, honestly. Because I think Sleepwalkers was right around the same time as the Lawnmower Man.
But Sleepwalkers is definitely the Stephen King story.
Yes,
correct?
but the guy that they hired to write and direct it before Mick Garris was brought on
by
made
Stephen
it
King.
like
I mean,
so
that's Rick
different. He's like, they're coming from the planet of sleepwalkers and the this and the
really?
that, and like he just threw it all out. Like, he Lawnmower Man that shit, basically.
Well, I'm
So, like,
glad because
really-
Sleepwalkers is a good movie.
So
Lawnmower-
imagine if they had called but see, like as a producer, what they should have done then is called this, Job's War or or Cyber Job or
That's the other thing
something
again about
other
this.
than
My
the
theory
Lawnmower.
about the second film changing somehow is that I remember it being called Job's War, and I know you do too, Ian. Now every time you look it up, it says Beyond Cyberspace. I'm telling you,
The trailer.
Someone has
the
gone back
trailer-
in
the
time
trailer
and turned
was
Lawnmower
Job's
Man 2
War.
into a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know
It's a
how they did it too. 'Cause, like,
Mandela effect kind of thing.
yes, I swear to Christ, they've done it because I swear to Cyber Christ. Because like Patrick Bergin is a fucking amazing actor. He's a gifted actor, and we couldn't even recognize him in that movie. And not just that, like, recognizability is like what he brings to the table, but like his acting was so bad and so ham. We thought he was like this rejected 70s TV actor. He was just phoning it the fuck in, like to the nth degree. And like, why wouldn't he read that script? It's ridiculous. Like,
Dude, the kid from what's the kid's name again? The kid from Prehistoria?
Austin O'Brien.
Austin O'Brien.
He's not bad in the first one, and somehow, whatever, 5 years later,
all the kids are horrible.
awful. It's awful in the second one. Like, can't act.
And I
His
love
way to
those
the paper
kid
bag.
actors. Again, it's not their fault. They're just like, it's like not even that they're miscast. It's just like they're miswritten. They're just you shouldn't have like these Disney kids flying away like Mary Poppins at the end of like what started out as like a Stephen King adaptation,
Right.
And
So
yet I feel the same thing though. Had there not been a Lawnmower Man 1, I think the world would remember Lawnmower Man 2, Job's War. The trailer says Job's War.
It's way better.
I think the world would have remembered that movie a little bit differently. And it is. It is.
Lawnmower Man itself is
doing, Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Did Ian freeze?
I was just gonna say,
Oh, yeah.
Matthew is doing Jim Carrey.
Max head
Batman
rooming
Forever.
out, buddy.
Yeah.
Did I freeze?
Yeah.
Am I back now? Okay, sorry,
Yes.
internet issue. But he was doing a Batman Forever kind of Jim Carrey thing, which again would have been fine had
If
you
we
not
didn't have
this,
the first one.
Well, that, and if you didn't have this weird title, The Lawnmower Man. Like,
So my question is, why did Jeff Fahey not do the second one?
because
Jeff Fahey was probably busy either doing Darkman direct-to-cable sequels or just exploring his career into late-night softcore Showtime movies.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Because that's like, I mean, and I say that not as a knock. I say that with respect. Like, that's how, like I knew who Jeff Fahey was when I was like, oh, yeah. It's the guy in all those, like, sleazy-ass movies.
He certainly
and
brings
that's how I
that
knew
kind
Cheryl and Fenn, too. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
He certainly brings that kind of sensuality, the first one, you just don't get in the second one.
Well, and you know what?
Oh my God.
This is also, you all know Flowers from Algernon, right? You know the story, or the movie Charlie. Have y'all ever heard that story?
I have no fucking idea. No,
it's literally.
Well, I know the story.
Yeah, it's about the janitor who was basically mentally challenged, and he gets experimented on and starts to become smarter and smarter and smarter, and then all of a sudden he's a genius, but it's killing him at the same time. And so literally the cyber god story is basically virtual reality flowers from Algernon is really what it is. So
And then
I mean,
years
in a weird
later,
way,
we got
Stephen
that
King
kind
also
of
noticed
thing.
that too.
Years later, we got that kind of thing in Awakenings.
Yeah, you know, it's like
with
that.
Robert
Yeah.
De Niro and
Yeah.
Robin Williams.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
guess
really
so.
like this is literally Charlie 2.0, if you really want to call a movie that.
Well, it's you know, the one kernel I think of like what is interesting is that it's like taking someone with a learning disability and like making them, you know, smarter, like fixing, you know, things in their brain that aren't working.
Which is actually good. That's what I actually
That's
like
great,
about
but like
that's what I like about
but it
Lawnmower
loses
Man.
all credibility when you're like, we're doing it through virtual reality. Then
Yeah,
it's like,
unless
oh,
you
wait a
with
minute.
the
Well, that doesn't
science
make
of
any
virtual
fucking sense.
reality.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's
But
where
but it does serve as a very effective time capsule of 1992. If you want to go back and if you want to know what 1992 looked, smelled, and tasted like this movie kind of has it all. You know what I mean? Like
I don't
seriously,
know
Pierce
if I would say
Brosnan.
that.
Pierce Brosnan was still like an up and coming fucking hunk. You know,
and he never has a shirt on once in this
he's
movie.
never wearing
Right?
a shirt.
No.
He's just like smoking in bed. They're just like, be as sexy as you can be.
Well,
please.
there's only one way to have, you know, make women watch this movie, and that's probably like, you know, Jeff Fahey and Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, if you can get through the initial Jeff Fahey mentally challenged phase until he gets sexy.
Which,
exactly.
Which does not has not aged well.
No, and like
no.
And
Oh,
like, I
no,
love Jeff Fahey,
for sure.
but like that's like they direct him so poorly in those scenes. I'm sure he would have given a much more subtle performance, and I'm sure he wouldn't have chosen to have fucking Trey Parker's basketball hairdo. Which
oh my God,
it is like
that's
Steve
what
pointed it out. Steve pointed it out, and like I can't unsee it now. Like
at the time, you know, we didn't know who Trey Parker was, right? So like just the other day when, you know, we're talking about we're gonna do Lawnmower Man, whatever like that. I'm like, oh, let me just watch the trailer for a second, you know, and I'm like, he's like, is that Trey Parker?
Yeah,
And I'm like, I remember
sexy Trey Parker.
I remember Jeff Fahey, but
well,
sexy.
And he's got that outfit, you know, overalls and, you know, triple X, you know, orange shirt. Yeah. I mean, it's like
it's totally
so
basketball.
90s. It's so 90s.
And it's like no less ridiculous when he starts dressing up like a fucking cowboy either. It's
yeah,
like, it's like this is just as insane. Like,
did he have bolo tie?
Did he? I don't even
might
remember.
have. He should have.
Probably,
didn't,
yeah. If he
it's
didn't,
like,
yeah, he should.
And that's the thing. It's like Cyber God is a great. I think Cyber God was a script if it had gone through a few more drafts. And imagine, and seriously, if you took out the Stephen King part where we had to add him as a lawnmower man, and imagine if this was in the hands of Joel Schumacher or Steven
Carpenter,
Spielberg,
Carpenter
or Barry
always
Levinson,
does.
or Carpenter. I mean, Cyber God could have actually been a really fascinating film, and could have been remembered very differently. That's why I think New Line Cinema just really shot this movie in the foot when they tried to just bank on Stephen King.
Yeah,
you know,
because they had
you would.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
But
no,
that's the money.
To call it Lawnmower Man, you have to have something to do with a lawnmower. You know what? The title's not the problem. The problem is that they're calling him a Lawnmower Man.
Yes,
multiple times.
Yes,
and they're like, "Oh, that's the Lawnmower Man."
Because they got to.
You're like, "Come the fuck on!" Yeah,
he's a local fixture in this area.
Yeah. They got to explain this very stupid title.
My question is, how'd they keep the dial-up going the whole time? Like, you mean, like nobody like stop, like, you know, the dial-up. So that was like the best dial-up.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
that was the best dial-up.
I don't want to get too
ahead.
Had.
You know, like no phone could disconnect it. Nothing. It was always on. It was
getting
DSL before it was DSL.
This movie, I guess, is a little before its time, just in the sense that him becoming engaging and becoming a part of virtual reality is essentially meaningless. And his rebirth cry will be that all the phones in the world ring at the same time. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, who gives a shit? Like, what is that fucking okay? Like, what are you gonna, you know, like nowadays he could do some damage in the, you know, and the
I wonder if the movie
who you gonna call when every phone rings.
I wonder if the movie Disclosure took any kind of inspiration from the Lawnmower Man. Because it's like
the same graphics company.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Oh.
They did,
Oh, wow.
that did disclose, which I think is actually done better. But I will say this: if they had done it right, this could have been a new, Hellraiser. This could have been the new, it would have dated it, but again, I think what is the cool part about the movie is the virtual reality, the computer generated.
It is.
Scenery.
Oh no,
with,
it's totally
with
the lawn
Job
mowing.
as
Like,
yeah, right. The landscaping.
I'm into
But-
I'm into like the edging and the trimming and the raking, like
Instead of like him
All
saying
the-
like
the
cable
bagging,
guy,
the mulch,
he could be like
Cable guy.
Lawnmower Man.
Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, Ian would remove that. I would take out the virtual reality stuff and just have it be about Jeff Fahey mowing the lawn. I'm joking.
Would have been a
I'm
way more
fucking joking.
way more entertaining movie.
But I think, we really could have had like a brand, and they really tried. You guys remember Brain Scan, which came out
yeah.
a couple
Brain
years
Scan,
later, like Edward Furlong. Like they kept trying to make cyber reality a like a fearful thing, like
Right.
and
Yeah.
it just never, to me, it never kicked. It never.
Well,
it never
because-
got
Yeah,
to
like
that
this-
point.
There's a time in the 90s where that was thought of as what was going to be the future of the internet. Virtual reality is going to be huge in everyone's homes, and it was a very short-lived period of time. And obviously that didn't take up. Now it's like 9 malls across America you can go play virtual reality or whatever,
And yet not that many
no-
people do it that I know. I mean, I know
Well,
students who do it and stuff like that. but
Oculus is the one.
oh, right.
Yeah,
there's that, yeah.
Well,
But that's
people
not
are,
what
like,
this
all these
is.
huge,
This
all
is-
these huge tech companies are betting big bucks that like VR is going to be a thing. VR and AR, of course, augmented reality.
Yeah.
I think that it's sort of like you don't get one without the other, really. So that's why they're just pumping money into both. But they're certainly betting a lot of money that like at some point this is going to be the next big thing. Because if you're Apple or you're Microsoft or you're whoever, like, yeah, you can keep selling people laptops and desktops and smartphones.
Well, that makes a lot
eventually
more sense.
You need a new product category.
That makes a lot more sense now than it did in 1992, though.
Yeah, VR was like, literally 3 years after this, you got the Nintendo Virtual Boy, which is about as good as home VR was going to get at the time. And man, shout out to those of you who ever sank your money on one of those or even wasted your time trying one in a Blockbuster store demo like I did, because that was just a fucking awful era for video games.
What was that?
Virtual Boy or Virtual Boy.
Oh, yeah.
It was like red vector based. It was just like so many steps backwards in terms of gaming, and I don't know if there were any steps forwards.
But I think when they show Pierce Brosnan, it's the funniest thing when they show him using the virtual reality machine he has initially. He's flying, before his wife comes down there and yells at him for, being obsessed with virtual reality. And then she asks the age-old question, like, are you fucking this thing? And he's like, no, get out of here. I'm not taking you to the city.
He had a virtual porn collection.
Of course, that's what he's doing. He's fucking that thing. But yeah, so they only had 3 modes on the screen, though. He's like, fly. And the other one was like, fall. And the other one was, and then he just went back to fly.
Fall, float.
He was float, fly, fall. That's what he was doing. That's what he's doing down there.
Yeah,
he's floating around, flying. Can
we talk
it's
about
like this is the future, and you're
this
afraid
is the
of
future?
it.
This is everything.
Can we give credit
everything
to
you don't understand?
Can we give credit to the monkey though?
Sure. So, did you guys watch the director's cut?
Yeah,
Or-
I watched
yes, and the director's cut
Okay.
shows a ton more on the monkey. Like
It's a lot
the
of
opening,
monkey
like
stuff,
25
right?
minutes are about like the monkey getting pursued.
Yeah, that's what
and
I said.
the
Like the
monkey,
director's
the monkey
cut-
runs into fucking Job's little hut, and Job thinks it's this comic book character that he reads about, and they like become friends, and like then all these people come and shoot the fucking monkey, and that's like
Mickey. Did you watch the director's cut of the
no.
theatrical? No, yeah, because
No,
it's
I
actually
just-
like 25 minutes, right?
I just watched what was on HBO, and that was good enough.
hate-
Like, you're not
I
really
hate
selling the
this
director's
man.
cut to me by saying like, there's
know,
way
right?
more about the monkey. Like, fuck
I
the
hate
monkey.
th- I hate this man. I hate this man.
The monkey gets gunned down in the director's cut, right? I didn't watch
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I watched. Yeah.
The-
And so
the-
does his
the-
wife. His
the
wife
VH
gets killed at the end. of
Unless,
the
unless the monkey was sitting right next to Clint Eastwood or Tony Danza, I'm not interested in the monkey.
You don't care.
First off, don't you come on this show and ever talk about going bananas again, Mickey. You stop it. Right? But I do agree that the home video version was, just chopped. I mean, it was get straight to Jeff Fahey, get right to the.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense though. It doesn't
Jeff Fahey, they really do a good job. That's what I'm saying. Like, how do I explain it? Lawnmower Man is a burnt pizza, right? Like, it's still pizza.
A burnt breakfast gas station pizza?
Yes, you'll still eat
breakfast pizza.
And in your mouth is this taste of like what should have been a great pizza, but it didn't taste good at the time. Does that make any sense?
What is this analogy? No, it doesn't make sense.
No, I definitely didn't track with you on that one.
Whatever. Like, it was a good movie, and it's there. It's just
there's something there. There's a good movie in there.
It has all the prompt. It has like enough in concepts and ideas
and acting
fill to fill a movie that is more than what it is. Let me put it that way. Listen, like, it has like seeds of like The Matrix and Total Recall.
Let's just call it what it is.
And there's possibilities, but like the execution of it just to me was not like of the greatest.
Let's just call it what it is. It's one and done. One and done.
One and done.
You watch it one time.
I want to know
like,
if
good.
this new movie that they're coming out, this new remake, this new
so
reboot,
there's something on that in the chat.
Are they going to reboot this version
here's what
of
we have in
Lawnmower
the
Man?
chat?
Are they going to take the story?
Gold's Code informs us in the chat. He says the new Lawnmower Man is a direct sequel, not a reboot. Allegedly, Pierce Brosnan is back for it. So that is something we can all hope for.
Is it a direct sequel? Is it the third one, or is it a direct sequel from the first one?
It'll be a direct sequel of the first one.
You think so? They're not going to take the second one into effect?
Good,
because
the
second one never happened.
I'm usually not in favor of retconning, but man, the second one almost retcons the first one in itself. And it's like, ugh. If you retcon a retcon, then I'm okay with it. And that's.
But here's what I'll tell you: what I want Matt Frewer with Pierce Brosnan. I want
Matt Frewer and Jeff Fahey, the two Lawnmower Men. I want Lawnmower Man 3. It's raining Lawnmower Men, and there's just everyone's a Lawnmower Man. They're all fighting.
The only one
they have to like describe to like all the new kids or whatever like that what a Lawnmower Man is.
You're gonna have to describe what virtual reality is to some of these kids. Like,
now we have a war over automated grass cutting. These like Roombas for your lawn, and Jeff Fahey is behind one technology.
How do you explain?
Is behind another.
You have to explain what mowing the lawn to these kids is. Like, get out of here. Like,
how do you explain Jeff Fahey coming out of the telephone?
How do you explain? He kind of has. He just has 90s
bullshit.
Powers.
He comes out like those little bubbles, like he was de-rezzing people into bubbles.
Mickey, at one point, he sicks a pack of killer virtual reality bees on a whole bunch of.
That's right. I remember that.
Soldiers. That come out of nowhere.
Oh yeah,
he can do whatever the fuck.
I remember that.
He has. There's no rhyme or reason.
Oh my god, that fire scene too was just. Oh, that was the early digital fire that they never should have tried.
There's a payphone in the middle of Kansas City, right? In the middle of like
Kansas City,
and this payphone, one of the last ones around. Job comes out of that right there. That payphone.
We don't even. Yeah, that'd be great.
That's the only.
There's one
place.
payphone left. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And just some fucking. You got to Terminator that shit. Have like some homeless guy in the alley see him. Like,
I would love that fucking payphone to be right next to that gas station pizza place in Iowa.
Right.
It would be so awesome.
Come and go.
The homeless guy is either saying get out of my house because it's a phone booth, or he's saying get the fuck
out
away. I'm waiting on an important call.
That's my home.
Don't hang up the phone.
All right, so we are late for pitch time. We are well past pitch time, so that goes for everyone in the chat as well. If you haven't yet, please hit us with your Lawnmower Man 3 pitches. In the meantime, catching up on the chat, Gold's Code says VCR Redux Virtuosity, please. To which Destinino says, yes, we need Sid 6.8.
Freaking Lutely. I am there, folks. These yokels can stay home. I'll do the whole show for Virtuosity. That's what this movie. Virtuosity is what this movie should have been. That movie was genius.
Virtuosity was just like, let's just take spare parts from other movies and make it a movie, and all the movies were T2.
And it worked.
It
It
worked.
was
9 out of 10 parts were from T2. Gold Scuttle says little Chris going to Wisconsin like Big Russ going fishing. That is cute and a nice reference and callback to our How to Shrink the Kids episode. He also says, just say the truth, this movie is no Airborne. God, Gold Coat is just dominating the chat. Let's see. Kyle Cameron, the guy who cuts my lawn, I call him Dan the Lawnmower Man. So people do say that, Chris.
No
okay,
fucking
know.
way.
People do say Lawnmower
no,
Man.
you're crazy. No one's ever.
We're outmuted here.
Heard that.
Ugh, I refuse to believe this.
Call the Lawnmower Man. You never heard call the Lawnmower Man?
No one's ever said call the Lawnmower Man.
I think somebody
No,
said to call lawn care. I've never heard anybody like
Yeah.
the Lawnmower Man.
I don't even think lawn care exists anymore.
The Lawnmower Man is what Stephen King like told. How it came about is he probably was like, oh, instead of the boogeyman, well, the Lawnmower Man is gonna get you. You're like
Right.
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, he saw a lawnmower and was like, that. Yes, that.
I want a fight between a digital lawnmower and a digital landscaper. That's boom, movie right there. That's all you
the
need.
movie right there.
Just you got to focus in on the lawn mow. You know, they've underserved the lawn mowing.
He
side
uses
of
a
the
digital
story,
lawnmower to
you know.
rake
Okay.
over someone's brain in the
All right.
movie,
Now,
which was really cool.
Truth be said, I actually thought about this. All right, so I do have a start. All right,
Okay.
so as much as right now I know Hollywood says you don't do anything about pandemic or this or that, to be honest, it's a perfect setup, right? All of the kids were on Zoom, right? Now, it's been years, but all of a sudden the pandemic hits and everybody is going online. So in a weird way, I kind of want to take this concept of like the forgotten Freddy Krueger idea, you know, where Job has just been sitting in this dusty bin of, untapped virtual reality. But these kids, these dumb kids who are, jacking around while they're supposed to be in class, end up going to this weird virtual reality world that this teacher opens up, right? Like, let's say it's a technology teacher, right? Who's like, hey, I want to entertain you guys. Instead of looking at your stupid fans because you're tilting your cameras up, come into this virtual reality world that I set up in 1995, right? And so they do. And inside this world is a sleeping Job, right? And they wake up Job. And imagine...
Is Chris
Job...
Hansen in this room too?
Oh, stop. See, you ruined it. Get out of here. But all of a sudden, you've got this world of all of these kids on virtual reality, and Job just has access to accounts and to all this stuff, to Bitcoin, to all, I mean, we're in a world that is completely online, more so than it was in 1992.
Right.
So, I don't know where to kind of go with it, but I do feel like this online Zoom platform has
something specifically rolled out now or whatever is somehow crosses that threshold, that barrier into virtual reality to the rest of the world of the internet or whatever, that somehow allows Job, who's been laying in wait or he's been trapped, whatever you're saying, to or maybe he's been biding his time,
Who are you kidding? Job's on TikTok.
Right. Well, yeah. So and
Wait,
just infiltrates everything.
But Mickey, imagine though if he did. Like, imagine if Job wakes up and gets to everybody through TikTok, through all this technology, through your cell phones. I mean,
through everything.
I mean, in a weird way, I would love, and Chris, I kind of agree with you. I think one of the most fascinating lines is, "I am now the Cyber Christ." Almost that passion of the Cyber Christ is a very interesting concept. Would people worship Job? Would there be a religion to this?
The cult of Job?
The cult of, I mean, like,
now, what would he have them do? Like, what would he be? What would he have these kids do?
The weird problematic thing
with
a good sequel, a good horror movie sequel, is that they give him this weird redemption arc at the end of the first one. And it's hard to get past that. You know what I mean? Like, he lets him blow up the facility because of the kid, and he decides not to murder him. And then so it's like, I'm not a bad guy still. And what you'd want in a sequel is him coming back with a vengeance, right? Like now he
Yeah.
could go anywhere and he could be
Well,
a
you
part
want
of
a
anything.
franchise is like endless, virtual,
You
And
want him
that's
to
the
be the
other side
next
of this.
Freddy
It's like-
Krueger,
it's
the
like-
next Michael Myers,
Yeah,
the next
they
whatever.
kind of like wanted some Freddy Krueger-ish kind of things to happen, but they never really went for it,
Right.
And that's like another way you could. This movie's like full of so many different ways they should have just picked a road and went down it in a sense.
Yeah.
But so now you kind of like, what do you do for a sequel? It's very tough,
Well, if you take the sequel into account, it's really tough because at the end of that one, I think he goes back to being
The
mentally
Lawnmower Man.
challenged. Yeah, like this initial state
Right.
with no legs. It took me 2 days, guys, to figure out that Jeff Frewer was actually supposed to be, or Matt Frewer was supposed to be Jeff Fahey's actual character because they killed him in the first one and he went into
it's very
cyberspace. They show his
confusing.
dead body, but then in the second one, I was like, why does that guy have no legs? And I'm like, oh, he survived the explosion. Right?
Yeah,
Is that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
I didn't even grasp that. Like I couldn't even figure
Neither
that out.
did the filmmakers. Don't worry.
No, no, I don't think they watched the first movie.
They did.
But when they bring him out at the end, he's doing I'm not gonna make the face. I'm not making the fucking face he makes. But it shows that he's gone back and reverted back to his simple nature, like
simple ways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But there still could be a digital copy of him in the.
That's what I'm saying.
So that being said, you're making a Lawnmower Man
now.
now. You're making a Lawnmower Man now. That's going to be very problematic to even touch that.
You're gonna have to really like find some.
I don't think they'll do that. I think that's part of the issue is that. Again, it was flowers for Algernon. I mean, that's what the guy was doing. It had nothing to do with this Stephen King story. So I guarantee you, if they're gonna use the Stephen King element, if they're gonna have to do some of that story. And I'll be honest, if they're going to, but if they're gonna bring back, that's gonna be hard to do.
Yeah.
I'd like
to see the Stephen King story adapted.
Well,
Naked
it could
pagan,
be interesting too.
Whatever.
I mean, it could be interesting as well that so basically in the first film, this nefarious company switches out the formula because they want him to be like a angry war chimp. So they put the primal rage stuff in, and then that goes into when he digitizes himself. But then he comes out of it. So there could still be this evil Job that exists digitally
somewhere in there.
In this like
split in two
in the VR world or in the net. And then they have to real Job's been sitting in a fucking home for like the past whatever many years. And so like they have to get him going again, back in the experiment, back on the medication, the good kind, not the fucking rage kind. And they have to like build him up to be like a good Job. And then like also one thing I thought, and I do have more ideas than that, but I'll get to them in a sec. I do want to touch on the live chat. I see Gold's Code has a pitch. Says Mitchell needs a summer job, so he takes up landscaping only for his new client, a father to a prep, abduct him for experiments. Now Mitchell needs to skate to freedom in cyberspace. Bam! Perfect. Sequels don't exist unless they're pitched by Sean Gold. And that is my weekly reminder to remind all of you about the Airborne movie experience in Ohio. Yes, Cincinnati, never been done before this summer. Be sure to be there, be square. Follow Airborne Movie Experience on Insta for more.
A loser. Don't go to this. Be a loser.
Ian will be there signing VHS tapes of Airborne. Let's see. Kyle Camper's got a pitch.
Let
knowing nothing about this movie.
Let this get eaten. Love Ian.
So Kyle Camper has a pitch. Knowing nothing about this movie, the Lawnmower Man decides that he needs to cut lawns on a galactic level, so he builds a lawnmower Death Star. Boom. Also perfect sequel. Dustin Hughes says Al had to leave Melmac because everyone plugged in their hair dryers at the same time. So maybe the phone's ringing would do something.
That's the fourth one.
The fourth one. Second one is being ignored. Okay, yeah, Gold's Code says in the new sequel, which is good and gives you the freedom to do that as well.
Thank you, Gold.
But what? Okay, but didn't like 12-year-old you kind of like the second one?
Chris told me it was awesome.
See,
So
we-
yeah,
that's
okay,
what
I
I'm saying.
did.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no fucking way I watched that movie though. Patrick Bergen's a great actor and he's terrible in it. There's just nothing away. There's no way I'm mixing memories or it's time travel or I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's fucking time travel. Someone out there does
while
their fucking
while you're
Matt Brewer.
rewatching this second one.
He's the only thing I remember.
There
of
going
the
like,
second one.
what the fuck? What the fuck? What? I don't
10 minutes
remember
into
that.
it, I turned to him and I was like, what is happening? What did you, why?
I just kept waiting for a big third
Why
act
is
and
this
it
a
never
thing?
happened.
Yeah.
But the other thing I thought is that, okay, kids, if you take things of today and like the first one's a great time capsule picture of like 1992 in terms of tech and CG and like where movies were as a Stephen King, Pierce Brosnan CG kind of, moment in time, sort of the birth of, it's like just a year removed from T2. And they probably just, honestly, from a visual effects standpoint, they flew too close to the sun. So now you can do all that stuff a lot better. And also, I think that maybe like all these tech companies are betting big on AR. So maybe they're thinking that the next social media is literally something with AR or VR where people like go into some like Ready Player One shit. It's not just gaming that's in there.
That.
It's literally socializing that's in there and stuff like that.
Well,
and
they
could very well be.
They had something like with that Second Life, the online like kind of like virtual room, and you could make your own identities and stuff like that, and you went in there and just hung out and met people.
I never heard of that until just now. But like the
Wow.
idea is that like this shit is coming, right? I didn't say that. But the idea that this stuff is like coming,
It's in
so
the
maybe you
news and
set the
everything
movie
too.
just a few years into the future-ish, and like that's how you bring in like a cast of like young characters that you can follow, because again, you have to get teenagers to see a movie.
I hope Ogre beats you up, Nicky.
You need
I don't
to-
think we need more. I don't think
But
we
you
need
gotta
more
get
fucking.
you gotta get young people to watch this and like, oh, by the way, this is a sequel to the 92 movie. You may
Right,
want to
it's
go
gonna
back
be
and watch that.
All right, you know what? Let's just do it. Get Harry Styles to be Job.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm sure my cousin Harold would have nothing to do with this.
I'm just saying, but like, there's a way. There's a way.
I just
to-
got that. Harold Styles,
um,
Harry
There's-
for short.
I mean, you have to bring back Pierce. So did anyone see that new like Black Adam movie? I don't mean to go too
Oh,
off
it's
topic,
so
right?
good.
It's not good, but the best
What
part
do you mean?
about
It's so
it is
good?
older Pierce Brosnan,
Old Pierce
like by a
Brosnan.
mile. Yeah, like he's great. He's the best he's ever been. And get him back if you're gonna make a sequel to this.
I mean, he kind of
Yeah.
will be like Jeff Bridges' Tron Legacy. I can see him
Yeah.
in like this.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
movie
totally.
or- yeah,
You know,
I mean,
Lawnmower
but it would
Man
work.
legacy.
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 Hey,
Yes.
but in a weird way, there is a possibility of making Lawnmower make sense. Lawnmower Man to make sense in 2023. It really
Yes.
does, actually.
way
with all
more
of
than
that social
1992.
media.
Yeah.
It did, yeah. 1992, it was, you were still having I mean, like, look, most of us watched Lawnmower Man on a box console TV. I mean, like, we were
I'm
on
gonna
VHS.
I'm gonna challenge the claims that this is a remake, or not a remake. I'm sorry, a sequel. I'm gonna say this is like the new Halloweens.
You want to
where it's
reboot
literally-
this? Yeah.
I
Oh.
think that
Oh,
this
where
is
it's
gonna,
like we're everything you want us to be. We're a sequel and a
Oh.
reboot and a
Yeah.
Yeah.
retcon and
I think it's gonna be
we're
that,
all the things.
Okay.
Check us out, please.
because you're not gonna make anybody go watch the fucking first one. Not now.
Then how do you make
Yeah.
the? How do you
Well, it has to.
How
Any
do you
good
do it?
sequel has to work in that.
So-
If you've never seen the first one, it's okay.
But the
So
challenge is going
essentially-
to be
exactly.
But the challenge is, how are you going to do graphics? I mean, you're going to do better graphics than this.
Oh,
Oh,
I
it's
don't know
all
if you can
CGI.
top that.
But
I don't know if you can
that's-
top that.
But
CGI.
this is what made it so cool. If really like think about it, this is what sold that movie. This was
At the
state of the
time,
art
yeah.
at the
At
time.
92,
Yeah.
but like you can't do that now.
Did it
But-
sell
yeah,
the
but
movie,
what
or
you-
was it Stephen King's name slapped on the poster?
Well, but
That's
in
pretty
my
It was
much-
opinion,
that. It was
but in
definitely
my
that.
opinion, you're going to pull a Blade Runner 2049. Every movie looks like Blade Runner now. So like you're not going to bring anything new to the table. Blade Runner brought something new. Lawnmower Man brought something new.
But I'm trying to think
what
what
would-
movie that we've seen recently has very similar kind of, virtual reality kind of things.
Actually, you want me to be very meta about it? What could really make Lawnmower Man work is actually make the movie that one of the first virtual reality movies.
Oh wow, yes, but
interesting.
I mean, honestly, if this is going to be the new technology, this is the new wave.
You would have to have the glasses on.
Yeah, like you could only
like 3D.
I mean, nothing sells
a
new technology like a 30-year-old kind of B movie. You know,
that's a good
lawnmower in the title. You know what I mean? Like,
look at Tron. Look at what the special effects they did in that movie.
Yeah, Tron's a little different though. Like
Tron
had the Disney backing.
The Daft Punk soundtrack.
It had that like we flopped at the time, but then we just like each year aged like wine and got better and better and better. Whereas like Lawnmower Man, like any tech movie from the 90s, like the tech aspect of it gets more and more laughable every year.
Lawnmower Man aged like Surge.
Like an open surge spilled on the floor of a fucking van that has seen some shit.
Yeah,
like
this movie was critically not well received, but made money. And I think, like you said before, Chris, it was mostly off the fact that it was that they flagrantly put it out as a Stephen King property when it wasn't.
And to your credit, Steve, what you're saying about Brosnan and the need to bring him back, Dustin Nino of Retrofiend says Brosnan would be the only reason I'd see another 007 flick is if they brought him back. So people still want him as Bond. He could definitely mow some fucking lawns.
He's fucking great, man. Bring him back. Bring back Jeff Fahey so we actually understand. Because not for nothing, but that changing that character over for the sequel was just confusing.
It's like it's like Speed 2 Cruise Control, kind of like, why would you take out
made $38 million at the box office?
Yeah, with a $10 million budget. Yeah.
That was pretty big at the time.
38.
Yeah, that's pretty big, but it's not.
And all they had to give Stephen King was another $1 million. That was literally it. That was the fine. They had to give him $1 million. Yeah, that was it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like so they calculated the risk. They said, if it works, okay, sure. Oh, we're sorry. Check. You know, like,
right.
That's literally what they did. Yeah. Oh,
interesting notion about making the movie. VR is a VR movie though. It does kind of make my brain sort of fire up a little bit, but it could be a Johnny Payback situation. For those of you that don't know, they tried to push an interactive movie, a sort of choose your own adventure movie in the 90s, and a lot of tech went behind it and just made the movie flop that much harder.
They've done that on Netflix now.
It could be a Freddy's Dead situation where you just like put the headset on for the last scene in the movie or something. It's probably all you get.
It was a 3D glass. It was
3D glass. No, I know that, but in Freddy's Dead, but like that's kind of like translated to now. It'd be like, all right, everyone put in your headsets. It's the big final scene now, and people would probably, I don't know. I feel like that's sort of a stain on Freddy's Dead, which is a movie that I love, but it kind of irks me that people don't respect Freddy's Dead for whatever reason. But that's a sidebar thing.
That's because Freddy's dead.
Oh, shut the fart! Seriously, you get right out of here, like.
If I want Looney Tunes, I'm going to watch Looney Tunes, not Nightmare on Elm Street. Back off, Chris.
That's a perfect,
Nightmare
on Elm Street movie. It's got great kills, great quotes, great one-liners,
Freddy's Dead
great characters,
over
great
and
actors.
over and over again before I watch Lawnmower Man again.
Anything with Yaphet Kotto. I'm just saying, the man who should have been in Lawnmower Man, Yaphet Kotto, could have sold some of this shit with conviction. But I don't know if we put all the ingredients on the table for what a new Lawnmower Man should be or could be. They're making one anyways without our help, so hopefully they do a good job.
I think it has possibilities. It's just again, don't go for the Stephen King story. Don't a
lot of possibilities. You got to pick a lane and go for it.
What if it actually did have Stephen King's help and made it?
But again, it's such. But read the story. It's such a weird short story.
I know, but what if you
hired him to like, hey, Stephen King, now we want you to write the third one. Anything you want to do? I think he'd be like, I want to not do it and get tons of money anyways because I'm Stephen King.
For the
there is something, but again, of his story where you do have the connection would be the Cyber Christ. I mean, it's a very religious story, Lawnmower Man, in its worship of demonology and all this kind of stuff. You you really do have something there with the religion.
Yeah, that's why his
and
name's
especially
Job,
if
right?
kids are devoted to like, a virtual
yeah.
hangout like they are to social media, virtual social media in a sense, or virtual social whatever interaction, then he could become like the cyber Christ, like just imagine if
I
kids
think
all
there's something
worship Zuckerberg or something, like that would be creepy.
Yeah.
Like you do have something there for sure.
The Church of
but
Job.
Church of Job.
I think it actually would be a very interesting movie, to be honest. And that's what I'm saying. Like
The
the whole
fucking Jehovah's Witness.
I'm telling you, the whole pandemic where everybody had to turn online to really connect with people. That's the perfect setup for something.
That's true. I mean, we
that
do
is
this
pretty
shit
good.
over Zoom, and like I've seen incredible documentaries over Zoom and things like that. Shout out Retrofiend again for making the best
And that's what
canon
I'm
martial arts
saying.
docs on the internet.
There's
Like
something there that it was cooked right. It's just just stayed in the oven just a little bit too long, I think. And left
You gotta just knock off the fucking nonsense and just make it a straight horror sci-fi.
Yes,
and go full throttle. Go fucking ham with it.
but also don't
hold back.
Don't be afraid to make an intellectual movie either, like an art movie either.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Well,
lean into some Matrix shit, like, but do it through a horror angle.
Well, it's funny.
Intellectual horror.
They tried
sci-fi.
Brain Scan, Ghost in the Machine, if you guys remember that one.
Yeah, I do remember that.
The 90s.
Yeah.
Did
you guys
try?
Did you guys see the newer Candyman?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you like that? I thought it was
I did actually.
I thought it was really that was a really good job in doing, making something from a while back and bringing in new elements.
And they did what Chris
but
was saying.
Also, it was a better movie.
Well, and they kind of did the Halloween thing. It's a sequel, but it's also a reboot, but it's a prequel, and it's that I think, Chris, you're right. They would do it, a Lawnmower Man, that way.
Yeah, I'm sure they would, because that's the trend, right? That's what's making money now. Just give me another one of those, damn it,
But in that particular case, they walked the line with it pretty well. Like they did
I agree.
Did good job with it, as opposed to other properties where they have not.
And brought back Tony Todd in the best way possible.
Oh, well,
not to ruin it, but they
you
brought back Tony Todd so geniusly.
Yeah, they
that
did.
You were like, perfect. Like, now you got me.
Well, he's just like, again, one of those pure actors that guy cannot fucking phone it in. Tony Todd is at a
oh my gosh,
level,
imagine him as
cut above.
Anybody could really do like a Shakespearean Job. I mean, imagine Tony Todd was Job, or you could have anybody really.
Take my money.
Come back as Job.
We'll have to leave it on that note and imagine who we could, if it's not going to be Jeff Fahey, we'll have to leave it there and just let you all ponder who could be the next Job. Who's the Job of your dreams? What's your dream Job?
Your dream Job.
Get out of here. I hate you. We're ending on that.
Yes, you do. We're definitely ending on that one. So, that being said, before I do my wrap-up spiel, Steve, Mickey, Ian, anything you guys got coming up in the works? Let people know about?
The recording is all done. And I think we're at the point of starting to do the mixes and everything else like that.
Don't be Axel. Don't pull a Chinese democracy. Don't mix for 14 years.
It's coming. It's coming.
Steve, Ian, anything article-wise, videos?
Sure, I got some. Like I said, Ben Crash Romeo just released a new video. Your Name Here. It's on YouTube. We released a single too, everywhere you can find music. Spotify, Apple Music, all that shit. So check that out. And there should be a new record released at March 25th. Full new record on all those same streaming services. So the end of March. So
radical. Looking forward to that. Ian, what's new in the Ian writing world?
Well, coming up soon, you will see a article on Fandom Spotlight for my B-Movie Challenge for the epic, operatic, sci-fi classic Space Mutiny.
God.
Oh,
wow, I'm there.
Take my money every day for Space Mutiny. So do read that article, but also please go on to YouTube on Chilling Tales to Tell in the Dark, where my short horror story, Mr. Frowny, was adapted for an audio book for there. So please check that out.
You know what? You're writing about Space Mutiny. You're doing God's work, but sometimes God's work is just to put his hands in the fucking dumpster and just get as filthy as possible. But hey, someone's got to do it. Who the, shit happens and who you going to call? Ian Klink.
Reb Brown. That's who.
Reverend Brown. These are my references. I was a little bitty boy. All right. So you Fandom fans might want to come back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. and we attempt to go family friendly for our Goofy movie episode. As always, if you enjoyed this video, the best way to help is to smash that like button and leave a comment telling us what movie or TV franchise that you want us to cover on a future episode of VCR Redux. And since you're already doing that, you might as well go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow Fandom Spotlight, the Hollow 9 Network, and Pop Culture Punk. Till then, back up those Betamax, rewind those Laserdiscs, and we'll see you at the movies.